How are we profiting? How are the communities we serve profiting? And how can we see profit as something that's not just financial, but about allowing the work that we do to improve the lives of all the people we care for?
Welcome to the Passive House podcast, brought to you by Passive House Accelerator, a catalyst for zero carbon building. For news, inspiration, and connections from all flavours of Passive House, check out passivehouseaccelerator.com. Sign up to receive regular updates about events, get your questions answered, and contribute to the community dialogue. There's loads of free information for experienced professionals and people just starting out on their Passive House journey. We hope to see you at one of our weekly Passive House Accelerator live webinars. In the meantime, here's this week's Passive House podcast. Welcome back to the Passive House podcast. I'm Matthew Cutler, coming to you from a fairly chilly Auckland in New Zealand, and I'm joined by Zach Semke. How are you going, Zach?
I'm doing great. Seattle is absolutely beautiful today, 70 degrees, sunny. It's paradise.
Nice. And you're back recently from the Passive House Network conference, which we're going to talk about today, and you were there with Ilka, who's also joining us. How are you, Ilka?
I'm doing well, although it's not exactly paradise in Philadelphia today. It is hot and humid. It's about 93, 94 degrees and really, really humid right now. So, yeah. Yep.
Well, yep, it certainly sounds like it's getting pretty warm over there, and you're dealing with that humidity as well. You said you got the air conditioning. Is it air conditioning and dehumidification as well, or just blowing cold air at the moment?
Well, it's a little dehumidification as well. I mean,
Right.
I have a little mini split here right above me, so that gives me some relief today.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about where were you both? You've been back recently from Passive House Network. We'll get into this because you got some great interviews from this, but where were you?
We were in New Haven, Connecticut, and in the remarkable, beautiful, comfortable, awesome Hotel Marcel retrofit of this brutalist icon that overlooks very busy I-95 freeway. And as we'll get into, it was totally quiet inside, but really amazing building.
Yeah, we'll get into that because it features in some of these interviews that you did, Ilka. But I had a quick look because I was intrigued, and I definitely encourage, if you weren't there or haven't seen it, look up Hotel Marcel because it is quite spectacular. All right, well, we've got lots of great people to hear from this week, but before we do, Zach, we've got a few people to thank.
Indeed. I want to start by thanking Source 2050, who is our sponsor of the week this week and is making all of our work possible at Passive House Accelerator, including this episode of the Passive House podcast. Thank you, too, to our stakeholder partner, NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. And thank you to our founding sponsors, 475 High Performance Building Supply, Ingui Architecture, Partel, Rockwell North America, and Zola Windows. And thanks to our champion sponsors, Bewizo, Cascadia Windows and Doors, Icon Windows and Doors, Intus Windows, LG Air Conditioning Technologies, Proseco, Source 2050, and Zender.
All right. Well, Ilka, you were at the Passive House Network conference along with Zach, but you did a great job with I'm picturing you with a roaming microphone going around chatting to people there. And I think we should just jump straight in because you got a chance to talk to Ken Levenson, who's the executive director at the Passive House Network, and then also Bruce Becker talking about that fantastic building that we mentioned, the Hotel Marcel. So let's get into it. We'll start out with Ken Levenson.
Hello again.
Hello again. Yeah. Last time we talked, we were actually talking about this conference, and now we're here. We are at the Passive House Network conference in New Haven, Connecticut, at a very special venue, the Hotel Marcel, which is amazing. And yeah, I just wanted to catch up and see how it's been going so far and what you're excited about and You also have a conference topic that I would like to talk about. So yeah, just let's start with just saying something about the Passive House Network. So
Sure.
Who are you?
It's great to be back and speaking again. I'm Ken Levenson, the Executive Director of the Passive House Network. So the Passive House Network is a 501c3 nonprofit. We're a charity organization really based on ecosystem building, on training, on connecting people, on capacity building to deliver high-performance passive house buildings across the United States, and really with an intention to leverage global networks as well as national networks regionally and locally, working at every scale across the industries.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more about this conference. And you actually don't put on a conference every year, correct?
Yeah, we haven't put on a conference for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And that was not necessarily planned one way or another. We had done a series of conferences, and we had an annual conference essentially. Historically, different regional groups were the hosts of those annual conferences, and our organization kind of like was the common thread of them. We then took on the conferences ourselves as a national organization, one a year, different areas. Going through COVID was very tough, and coming out of the other side of COVID, we had a series of conferences which were great successes on a lot of levels, but the cumulative kind of exhaustion caught up. And so we decided to take a break, focus on training, not try to do too much at one time. And now we're just kind of at a point of rejuvenation with the conference, which is exciting. So I don't know if it will be annual or biannual.
Okay.
I don't want to promise today, but it is intoxicating to be here.
Yeah.
And you do definitely emotionally want to just say, yes, we're doing it next year, and this is where it is, and what's happening.
And then your
Not yet.
Your brain kicks in and says,
Yeah, what have I done? What have I done?
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I can just say how, it feels really, really nice being here, seeing everyone. People are flying in. Tomas flew in from Ireland, and there are people from Denver, and it's a really nice feel, and everyone seems very, very happy to see each other. So it's awesome.
No, the Passive House people are good people,
Yeah.
and it's like getting them together is always a good time.
Yeah.
But it is nice when you see it kind of really be special. And I think, the setting of this conference helps that go a long way, being in Hotel Marcel. But it's a combination of things, and having people come, like to have new international faces to Oliver Stiles over from Spain, which has been fantastic, connecting in, and folks from Canada and so forth.
Yeah, a lot of people from Canada.
Yeah.
Again. Yeah, it's always interesting which countries kind of show up, right? For me, that's always very interesting, going to the International Passive House Conference.
Yeah.
But there's quite a bit of internationality here as well, which is awesome. So tell us a little bit more about the conference theme.
Yeah, so in thinking about the theme, I'm not actually a big fan of themes. People would historically ask me, what's the theme going to be? I'm like, the theme's Passive House. What do we need there's so much loaded in Passive House. Let's just dig in. But I was like, maybe we should do a theme. We're spend 2.5 years, and I wanted to essentially do something that was a little catchy, a little challenging, something that people could come at it from different ways, hopefully ultimately positively. So the theme is profit by experience. And so the word profit can be quite loaded for people in a good way or a bad way. And so, but once you bury kind of through that, you realize, all the different ways that we profit from experience. And we have that in life, but within Passive House, in terms of optimization, in terms of team building, in terms of delivering all these great benefits, in terms of delivering the benefits of, energy security to people, there's like a level of benefit/profit really across the board. And to not shy away from that in a way, to grasp it, because it's kind of like a little bit like, I don't know, the American flag or something like that, where you feel like somebody's taken ownership of it and you can't touch it because it's become the symbol of something else. Certainly, so profit is one of those things, and I thought it would be good to try to reclaim it in a way that allowed us to bring in business people and people who do approach it from a financial angle, which is completely legitimate. There's a lot of money riding on these projects and certain realities exist. So that was kind of the play of embedding in that.
Awesome. Thank you. And the presentation by Bruce Becker yesterday, and I'm actually going to talk to him a little bit more about the Hotel Marcel as a project for him. But he made that really clear too, that for him it was a profit value proposition, right?
Yeah.
To do this as a passive house.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see that, and I think it's one of the issues we're trying to navigate as a community, because a lot of the drivers of the community are architects, but they're not necessarily business savvy, and are kind of actually come out of college and are trained in a way that makes them kind of, allergic to business, and for a whole bunch of reasons. And so how to bring that together is super important. And Passive House has so much to offer, but the people who are business minded don't get to really hear that.
Well, what's interesting too is that Bruce actually has a background in business, right? So
he's kind of uniquely positioned to bring it together in a whole number of ways. And being the architect and the owner allowed him to maybe take what seemed like extraordinary risks, but really manage the risks in a really smart way, which, isn't going to happen every day. But hopefully setting that kind of example, talking with other hotel brands and operators, that while this is unique today here in the United States, there are many hotels around the world, and this actually isn't a high risk proposition financially. It is value engineering in the best sense of it, the way value engineering should be.
Exactly. And he had another session yesterday, and I heard that the room was just overflowing, right? So people couldn't even get in because he was talking about the financial implications.
There was
right?
interest.
There was a lot of interest, which is really great and should make us listen, right? People want to see and hear.
There's a lot to expand on that, and we can't, shy away from it. I think one of the problems is we just don't. It's very hard to get that kind of data, and even though it's out there, it doesn't seem like you really need to be intentional and relentless about trying to pull it out of people and projects. And Bruce, again, is kind of unique in saying, "Oh, I'm going to just be transparent. Here it is." And how he's worked on the building over these years and tuned it. It's wonderful. We need more of it.
Yeah, totally. And what I'm just thinking about last time when we talked in Essen, our topic or the questions that we're trying to answer or have people answer is how do you scale Passive House and who else should be involved in this conversation. And I think maybe, seeing this, it's also about like people going out into the business world, right? Not even just bringing business people into our world, but really reaching out. Someone like Bruce could go in and really tell the business people that Passive House is really a strong pathway financially too.
Absolutely. We all have to be out of our silos. We have to be making connections and leveraging it. It's tough. It's tough, but when you have these opportunities to really go for it, and like the hotel industry as a thing is really kind of, in some ways an obvious choice coming out of multifamily and all the experience there to go after it, more so than office buildings. Although, why not do office buildings? And affordable housing is so strong, and, getting that across these industries. But then market rate housing, like apartment buildings and developers, not so strong, right? But there's a lot of market intricacies there that are kind of speed bumps, but it's good.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
this is awesome.
absolutely.
Great conference. Thank you for putting
Ilka.
all the work into organizing it.
Yeah, well, it took a team, we have great staff, a lot of volunteers, and a lot of great people stepping up to speak, to participate, which just makes it exciting. I kind of, pinch myself that people want to come and speak and want to share their work is really good.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'll see you next year.
Maybe.
Awesome.
You'll see me somewhere.
I'll see you somewhere for sure.
Maybe at a PHN conference.
Okay, let's hope for
I'll
that.
put it, yes.
So welcome to the Passive House Accelerator podcast, and we are at the Passive House Network conference right now in New Haven, Connecticut, and we're at a very, very special place, the Hotel Marcel, which is a NFIT certified passive house. So very, very exciting. And I'm here with actually the architect, right? Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Bruce Becker. I'm architect as well as developer and part owner of Hotel Marcel. And I'm also on the board of the Passive House Network. So I've got 5 different hats I think I'm wearing for this conference. So it's been really gratifying to see everyone gather here who understands and wants to understand more about the benefits of passive house design. And I had a chance to give a little opening talk to share our experience in making this hotel, which is the first passive house certified hotel in the United States. And it's a 165 room hotel. It's part of the Hilton Tapestry collection, but it's in this remarkable brutalist landmark that was designed by Marcel. And so it's notable as a historic preservation and adaptive reuse remaking of this former tire company office building into a boutique and conference hotel. But it's also notable because it uses only about a third the energy of a conventional hotel. And we're using this opportunity to sort of share the findings and the benefits and the learnings from this whole experience of making this.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I saw your talk this morning, and there was a little bit of a story behind this whole building, right?
Yeah, no, I'm a Connecticut native. I grew up in New Canaan, which is where Marcel lived for most of his life. And I went to architecture school at Yale, and I've been practicing around here, do some work in New York City too. But for 20 years before we bought the hotel, before we bought the building, it was vacant. And it was just a big unanswered question. What's the future of this really cool building? So putting the puzzle together to come up with a new use, the passive house became one of the key strategies to make it succeed. Because with any commercial building, you have to pay the mortgage and you have to find ways to get enough income and not enough operating expenses to make that happen, and to be able to spend a third of what you'd otherwise spend to heat and cool and ventilate a building, that was a no-brainer to make it viable. But also we found that it's just a much better product, that our guests get a really quiet night's sleep, the air quality's better, it's comfortable, and so it gives us a real advantage over the competition, which has borne itself out. We have higher occupancy, higher revenue per room than all the other hotels in the market.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing building. Was it challenging to, first of all, explain what Passive House was to the other stakeholders?
Well, I didn't have to, because I was all the stakeholders. Okay. I was architect, developer, and owner.
Okay.
And I'm still trying to explain to Hilton, who is the brand the brand mainly markets the hotel. They don't own it or operate it. So we had a little roundtable with the hotel industry. We actually had folks from Hilton and Marriott and Choice and Highgate that owns a bunch of hotels, and to tell them what Passive House was, because it's one area, one building type that it doesn't know what Passive House is. So we figured, why not use this opportunity to educate? This is what the Passive House Network and the Accelerator does, is sort of share learnings. And they came away thinking, wow, we need to do this more, because it does present an answer to so many of the goals of the hotel industry, to have a better quality environment for guests and make the numbers work.
So when you started the project, what were the biggest challenges? Because it's a brutalist building. Was that hard to figure out how to make that a passive house?
Initially, I wasn't sure if it would be that hard or it'd be really hard. We worked with Stephen Winters Associates on the building envelope design. It turns out that the precast concrete exterior panels, which are produced under a trade name Mosaic, quite popular in the 60s for these corporate office buildings, it's a very high strength 6,000 psi concrete, which doesn't really allow as much moisture migration as you'd expect. And with all the modeling, it basically provided what we needed as the substrate for the insulation that was applied from the interior, and it sealed and passed with flying colors with the first blower door test. So we had a challenge of laying it out, working with this 5-foot module that worked out really well for efficient hotel layouts. The floor plate was a little deeper than what would be typical for new construction. We're sitting in the courtyard on the 9th floor now, and you can see there are these light wells. We have 2 of them, which bring light into the core of the building. So we have an additional 14 hotel rooms that get their natural light from these light wells. But we had to navigate getting the historic tax credit approvals together with meeting the passive house standards. We set a few more hurdles for us. We had to meet LEED Platinum, which is only the 10th time that's been done since 2016 in the United States. That was pretty easy because it's a checklist. Negotiating the sale of the property from IKEA was in itself a challenge, but we persevered by agreeing to buy a bunch of stuff from IKEA when it came to furnishing this hotel. We have some really beautiful wall mirrors and kitchenettes for the suites. There were a lot of challenges, but we had a great team, and we just focused on finding solutions and iterating enough times that we could, get the project certified by the Park Service, certified by the Passive House Institute. We had to meet about 400 pages of Hilton standards to be part of that Hilton marketing family. And, we had the pandemic hit in the middle of that, so that was another challenge, but we had a good team. We just persevered through the process.
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought was really interesting in your presentation was also to see that you still, years after opening, that you still were trying to figure out and optimize the energy usage, right?
Right. Now, the great thing about the passive house modeling is you know how much energy the building should use. And we found that we were using a third less energy than every other hotel, but we expected to use less than half. And so we kept looking at our energy, and we realized, hey, we're using these resistance electric dryers that are using a lot more than we thought. So we switched to heat pump dryers. We found that the heat pumps, the VRF heat pumps in the hotel rooms were using a lot more energy than we thought, because we had them set on an auto schedule where they would just and they were going from heating to cooling. We just turned them off, or we had the default be off. We also figured out a way to make the system turn itself off when the room wasn't sold, which took some hacking of the software systems. So this was done over several years. We also found out that some of the wiring for the controls there were 20 heat pumps that were actually misaddressed. So we fixed that, but now we're actually down below the model. But it did take, if I wasn't the owner, I'd never know this. If we didn't have a model, we would never know this. But this is the beauty of passive houses. You know where you need to be, and if you're not there, something's wrong that you can fix.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to a very, very successful project, and thank you very much.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure.
And that was starting with Ken Levenson, who's the executive director of the Passive House Network, and followed up by Bruce Becker, who is the president at Becker and Becker Associates. Awesome to hear from both of those, Ilka. What were your highlights from those interviews, but also from being there at the event?
Well, I think just being there was just amazing. I mean, it was nice after 2.5 years to meet this group of people again, although a bunch of the ones that I saw at this conference were in Essen as well. There's
Yeah.
definitely a little bit of an overlap of audiences there. So that was nice. It was kind of a nice little reunion. But just being at the Hotel Marcel was just really, really amazing. I mean, it's such a great building, just experiencing, what it feels like. And just the space, the conference was on the third floor, and there was like this little courtyard in the middle. And that's actually where I did most of my interviews. So when everyone else was basically in session, I took out my little microphones and I asked, Ken and Bruce to come out into the little courtyard with me. So that means that there's a little bit of a background noise, but it also means that it was just a really, really nice environment to just have that conversation. And I think my highlight, besides, of course, seeing everyone and hearing everyone talk, was a building tour of Marcel, Hotel Marcel, and really just going through the kitchen and the laundry room and seeing one of the rooms was just, yeah, very, very impressive.
Well, I'm just scrolling through as you look, and there's a whole section on the hotelmarcel.com website about
Mhm.
sustainability, including the fact that it's an all-electric hotel. So I'm really
Mhm.
pleased you brought up the kitchen. I assumed there's no gas in there.
That's
No, no
right.
gas. Yeah.
That's right.
And was that talked about? Was that discussed about from the chef's point of view or the menu?
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
No,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Zach, you did the building tour as well, but when we went into the kitchen, I mean, they prepare all this food there. I think that's a big item on their list too, that it's all local, that it's all freshly made, it's all, you know, home cooked basically. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's all on induction cooktop. What I was surprised about was that there was no exhaust hood. It was all going through a recirc hood. So that was one thing
really.
that I was
In a
a
commercial kitchen.
little, yeah, that I was a little skeptical about, but apparently that is not a problem for them.
Because
Yeah.
what's the climate in that region?
So I mean,
It's
it's mixed. It gets hot and humid in the summers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and cold in the winter. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're dealing with quite a big load, internal heat load from that, and also presumably a big moisture load from that kitchen.
Right. The heat load though is lower because it is induction and that does
Right.
create less heat.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the things I thought was interesting too was that because there's no gas, there isn't like a way that I can't remember the term that that commercial kitchens use for the thing that makes steak char. But like
Right.
that's not an option, right? There are certain things. So
Right.
so that just means that, and I think the point that the tour guide who is in charge, like the manager of the kitchen essentially, was making is that chefs always no kitchen has everything. Like there's, or very, very,
Yeah,
very
right.
few kitchens have every little item, right? And you
Right.
plan your menu around what's available, and so that it hasn't
Right.
felt like it's not you're not going there for it's not
A char
Ruth's
grilled steak.
Chris, whatever Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. It's not a steakhouse. It's you're going there for other
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
and
was
there's no pizza oven as
right. No
well.
pizza oven, although they could have one because you could
Yeah.
do electric, but
Yeah.
right.
Totally
But
get
there's
electric pizza
plenty.
oven.
Part of the point was there's plenty of steakhouses around. There are plenty of really
Right.
great pizza places around. There's
Yeah,
this
yeah.
a couple of famous ones that are battling it out very close by. So
Yeah.
why focus on that? Focus on other great food they can make.
Anyway, sorry to distract.
You're talking
I got
about
distracted
food.
by food.
Well,
I
one
want to
thing,
I want to riff a little bit on the quietness because I expected it to be quiet. I know that passive houses are quiet. I've been in passive houses before. We but so unfortunately, I didn't get to stay in Hotel Marcel because I was too late in registering, and it was so popular that the rooms were sold out. So I stayed down the street at another hotel that was not the Hotel Marcel for sure. It was not a passive house, absolutely not. And it's right on this freeway. It was very noisy, and there are also like these like gangs of like 20-year-olds who are like doing all these crazy motorcycle things, like, you know, popping wheelies and peeling out. And so like there's all this noise outside. And on the tour that we went on in the building of Hotel Marcel, we're sitting, you know, standing and listening to the details about this hotel room, looking over I-95, and literally it was absolutely silent. Like we can hear any of the traffic. There are these huge semi trucks or lorries, I think.
Yeah. And I-95 is like right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big freeway, and it was
Yeah.
absolutely, we could not hear anything. I imagine, you know, if you were actually sleeping, maybe every once in a while you could hear what they call like the air compression brake, perhaps. I don't, but
Yeah.
I didn't hear a thing. And that was just, it was that was a very powerful visceral experience to see that out there and just be completely silent. And we were talking about in the Reimagine Buildings Collective today, we had a number of developers, a couple of whom were in the room in that session that you referred to, Ilka, where that was like so packed that people couldn't get in. I squeezed in there and was listening to that. Anyway, we had a session around how to make the case, how do developers make the case to investors around Passive House and make these projects happen. And Shane Paulin and David Comet were both at the conference and had experienced were in that session at the conference. And the topic of, so Bruce Becker's presentation was super compelling and talked about how much Passive House saved money and this idea that Passive House actually made the project possible in the first place. And he talked about Passive House, and I think it was mentioned in the interview, as a value engineering solution.
True value engineering. Yeah.
What was really interesting that Shane Paulin kind of brought up in that conversation was that it also is clearly a market differentiator, not because it's being called a passive house. Like nobody, I think probably most people who go to the Hotel Marcel don't know that it's passive house, but he was just looking at he pulled up his phone and was looking at the reviews of the Hotel Marcel, and the first 5 reviews all talk about it being quiet and comfortable, or quiet and great air, or so, you know, so it was like the experience of it, like I think that really makes a big impact on people's kind of experience of being in the place. And so, you know, lo and behold, the Hotel Marcel is out competing all of the other hotels in the region. And it's not because people know it's a passive house, but it is because it's a passive house, because people know that it is a really comfortable place to be, and they see the reviews and other people raving about that. So that like,
and those reviews be critical for that industry.
Yeah.
What's really interesting about that is too that the Hotel Marcel, I mean, the location is what it is. It was a retrofit, right? It was they couldn't choose a different location, and the location, to be honest, I mean, it's not the best, right? You mentioned the free or highways outside, and then I mean, it's right next to an IKEA, and yeah, I don't know how people would, if it didn't have anything that was special about it, I don't know how they would book it up.
Yeah.
You know, to be honest. Yeah.
Right. They'd have to slash the prices like the crappy place that we stayed at down the street.
Yeah, I stayed there too. It was not great.
No.
Not a
And I just wanted to real quickly, because on the tour in the hotel room, they said they measured the decibels and it was comparable to a recording studio.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was like, they're telling you that. And I mean, as Zach said, you saw the cars running by and you didn't hear anything. I think that was the most impressive experience for me as well.
Yeah. Really great stuff. But there is more, because Ilka, you actually caught up with a whole bunch of other people who are at the event, and I always enjoy hearing from other participants and people attending these events, and you did a great job of capturing those. So just want to play a few excerpts from those chats, but tell us what were the sort of main themes or the things that you asked them.
Yeah, so I picked a few more people that were there to interview, and we thought we'll do something similar that we did in Essen, where we asked the same question and just see, more like almost like a rapid fire interview kind of scenario. So what I asked them, each one of them, was basically, what does profit by experience mean to you? Because we talk about that with Ken quite a bit, how they came up with that conference theme and that it can have so many different meanings, right? So I was just kind of interested in hearing, what everyone kind of thought about that and what their take was on that. And then we just kind of talked about what everyone was really excited about at the conference, like people that they would meet or sessions that they would see. So just kind of seeing, why are you coming here? What are you excited about? And then also we talked about what they think, what still the challenges or opportunities are in high performance right now and what deserves more attention according to them. And then lastly, some kind of mentioned what they would like to keep discussing after the conference is over. Like, how do we go from here? How do we keep going? What do we want to talk about? So that's basically it.
Awesome. All right, well, let's get into it. Here's a few more voices from the conference talking about those themes.
My name is Beth Campbell. I'm the Education Program Director with Passive House of Massachusetts. I also sit as the board chair of Passive House Rhode Island, because even though I work primarily in Massachusetts, I live in Providence, Rhode Island. And I also moonlight as a contractor teaching the FIA Certified Builder course. The conference theme, Profit by Experience, I think is a great one, especially as it relates to what we're doing in Massachusetts right now. So for those of you who are not aware, Passive House is now required for multifamily buildings, 12,000 square feet and up, in about a third of the state by population. And that's the third tier, the specialized stretch code. The regular stretch code applies to, between the two, it applies to almost 90% of the state by population right now. So we're seeing a huge influx in the past 3, 4, 5 years of extremely high performing buildings and a lot of passive house projects. And given that, the industry is doing a fantastic job of innovation right now. And so because we're delivering so many passive house projects, naturally, the architecture teams, the build teams, the development teams, all of the project teams are discovering efficiencies. And so profit by experience means that with experience, we're naturally seeing efficiencies come through the whole passive house process. And thankfully, that means, yes, we're turning a little bit more of a profit, but we're driving down those first costs of passive house. One session that I'm excited about that I haven't actually seen yet, but I'm anticipating really enjoying, Paul Ormond, who is leading a lot of the passive house charge at Department of Energy Resources at the state level, is giving a talk today about how the impacts of passive house are positively influencing the grid. Something we've talked a lot about are the cost benefits to owners and operators of buildings, but we haven't talked very much about the cost benefits societally of a huge influx of passive house buildings and what it means to everyday ratepayers, folks that don't get to live in a passive house. So just myself, right? But that we can all benefit from there being more building stock that is built to and certified to the passive house level. So his talk, I think, is going to be talking about, again, profiting by experience, right? That the cost of business as usual energy operations is getting reduced now thanks to the influx of passive house projects. But I haven't seen the talk yet, so I don't have the details of that. So one opportunity that I see in the high performance building world right now that we're working on targeting at Passive House, Massachusetts. And our organization is there to serve the Passive House community, high performance community throughout the state and beyond. And as education program director, one thing I'm working on is finding creative ways to reach the trades and make sure that they have the education that they need to be successful. These are the folks with the actual tools in their hands building these actual projects. And a lot of them don't have access to a lot of the certification trainings or the more in-depth trainings that many of us who have had professional roles in these projects. And so we're embarking on a 2-year project right now to go on site, do train the trainer models so that we can help GCs and other project team members help to actually reach the folks with the tools in their hands to make sure they have the critical training they need to be successful and to make sure that their work is efficient in achieving the Passive House goals. So one example, very small example, is that we're going to be working with GCs on the first day that folks are getting to site, come into the job trailer. They already have to go to an OSHA training. They're going to get a sticker for their hard hat saying that they have had an orientation to that job. Now that's a great opportunity to get in front of them with even just a 5-minute training to say, hey, you're working on a Passive House. We don't know if you knew that. This is what Passive House means. It means in part that it's an airtight enclosure. So if you make a hole, tell somebody or fix it. And if you don't, it might end up costing you and this project a lot of money. So pay attention. And so really tight trainings where we can meet the trades exactly where they are in the languages that they naturally speak as well is a big piece of it. And make sure that we're setting them up for success because these folks know how to create efficiencies in their trade. So if we help leverage their knowledge and really bring them in, we're going to continue to see delivered efficiency on site.
My name's Timothy Locke. I'm the management partner of Opal in Belfast, Maine, and I'm excited to be here in New Haven at the Hotel Marcel. To be able to have a Passive House conference in a Passive House is a truly unique and special experience. And I find the topic for the conference, Profit by Experience, to be actually quite provocative. I think my interest in the topic is trying to gain a better understanding by what all of us mean by profit. How are we profiting? How are the communities we serve profiting? And how can we see profit as something that's not just financial, but about allowing the work that we do to improve the lives of all the people we care for through our work in our communities. And I feel like 30 years into Passive House this year, the experience should be enough of a confidence boost to allow us to get beyond financial profit for profit's sake. And I hope that we can all come away from this week with that provocation. I'm excited about that possibility. Well, when I was getting ready to leave for the conference, and I was sitting in my house and having coffee yesterday morning, my wife asked me if I was excited to come to PHN. And I said, of course, I get to see all my friends. So if you're asking me to choose who I was most excited to see, I think I would just have to say the community itself. I think that we've been able to build over the course of a decade and plus in North America a kind of like really unique and special group of people that support each other, that's excited to learn from each other, excited to learn what new things each other are doing. I'm also really interested in seeing some talks that I didn't get to see in Essen that are given again here in New Haven. And I'd say all the conversations that we have virtually and online, to be able to arrive and have them in person, no matter who it's with, because we all know each other, is just something that allows us all to kind of really improve through that communication. I can't pick one person. I think it would just be unfair to everybody else. I am really interested to see how various practitioners, consultants, and engineers are grappling with extreme resiliency and climate emergency. I think that a really remarkable thing that PHN did in the last calendar year was provide the California Rebuilds competition, because it's the first time that I've seen a Passive House competition that didn't center Passive House. Like, Passive House was a criteria for entry, but it wasn't the way the projects were judged, which I think was really unique and hopefully intentional, because it allowed us to start to use the tools we know as Passive House for a baseline and really use design thinking to address a different climate problem. And so I'm really curious to see how people are doing that in all sorts of resilience climates and criteria all around the country, all around the globe. Certainly it'll be part of what I'll be talking about in my closing plenary, because I really do think like that has to be the next generation for our community. If we continue to kind of use Passive House or kind of strictly try to argue for Passive House against its potential merits or demerits within the current construction marketplace and current construction culture, I think we're just going to be having these same conversations we've had for 30 years. And I don't think it's going to get us anywhere. But Passive House offers this unique opportunity to take energy resilience off the table and allow you to focus on these other things that are incredibly important to the communities that we design for. And that would be a way of kind of taking that confidence and allowing it to build into the next generation of what we do as a group. And it would get us out of this kind of like trying to continuously provide proof for a thing that we know already works. We know already we're getting asked those questions about ROI and energy and bad faith as a way to avoid doing the hard work. And if we can kind of get above that into some of these other conversations that low energy buildings unlock, I think that would just be an enormous step forward for Passive House practitioners worldwide. So I'm excited for those topics. I think the question that I think I'd like all of us to leave this conference, thought the same thing in Essen, but we have this big milestone of 30 years. And I would love to see us rediscover that spirit of creation and rule breaking that was Wolfgang Feist's invention with Passive House, that we have unique to this community, unlike other sustainability certifications, an example where somebody attempted something that they didn't know was possible as a first example because they were curious. And I think the more and more bureaucratic it becomes after it gets set in stone, after it gets repeated so many times, and that's beautiful in its own right. We have so many more people than we had at the first PHN conference in New York in 2015. I look around the room and there's some of the same faces, but all these new people, right? But if that comes at the expense of losing the ethos for why this started, I think that's a problem for the community, and I hope that we all can keep searching and imagining what the next step for Passive House is in the same spirit of Wolfgang's house 35 years ago.
I'm Karen Ramsey. I'm the founder of Building Wellness, and we are a sustainability consulting firm based in Fort Collins, Colorado. So profit by experience to me really means the community value that this Passive House Network community brings. I have had the opportunity to meet and connect with so many amazing, supportive people in the industry just in the last few years that I've really begun working in the Passive House community. And yeah, that experience is by far the most profitable for me, is just meeting really helpful people. Well, there's many. The first one I was really excited to meet was Bronwyn. We had connected on LinkedIn and chatted a little bit, and I just really look up to the work that she's doing and admire what she's doing. So I was excited to meet her in person. Ken Levenson, another one, like we'd have also connected online and never had the opportunity to meet in person until now. And Zach Semke would be another. So there's just so many people that I was really excited to like get to know in person a little bit better. So I am a firm believer that workforce training and high performance building is a missing piece of the puzzle. And we're working on that in Fort Collins specifically to support the Design to 2030 pilot program. And hopefully once we figure out how to offer that to the community in a way that is successful and can grow that high performance building community in our area, I would love to share how that happened and how it worked successfully with other local folks and get the word out. Passive Sure is something that is new to me. I know that we currently have a home in Fort Collins that's being piloted through the permitting process using Passive Sure. And I'm really excited to just learn more about that. I met with Megan Ring here, and Bron was mentioning it to me as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to really digging into that and understanding what the process is and how that can support our program.
So my name is Cheryl Saldanha. I'm an associate principal at Simpson, Gumberts & Hager here in New York. And I also lead our building science and our passive house practices for the firm. I've been with the firm for 17 years. I work on new construction projects, existing buildings, and I really find myself at this intersection of, trying to meet code and be code compliant, but also having clients that want high performing buildings and want passive house. And so trying to bring those together and find a good spot where clients can kind of meet those goals. Yeah, so profit by experience, what it means to me is, you're bringing your experience. We all come to, projects and these conversations with different perspectives and different experiences. So when we come together with all of that diverse knowledge and experience, we can benefit from it. We can all stand to profit from, all of that diversity. The session that excited me the most to sit in on is the one that was State of Change, and it was focused on, Massachusetts and all the good work that's happening there. There's really been a revolution with, passive house projects. And that session brought the data. I'm a nerd, I'm an engineer, and I love the numbers. So it was great to see, all the data from, actual projects that have been under review with the DOER and how that is actually resulting in real change. So very exciting to see those numbers coming out of Massachusetts, and looking forward to part 2 next year as more and more of those projects are getting constructed. Yeah, so a challenge right now that we have, and I think it's a very human one, the rate of, or the pace of business has really accelerated, thanks in part to technology, right? It's helping solve a lot of problems, but it's creating challenges for us as well. And so, one thing that I think about a lot is, bringing it back to the human. I personally feel like there are too many Zoom meetings and Teams meetings that we do. So one of the things I'm going to try and take forward on my projects, at least, is to try and encourage more in-person meetings and interactions. I think especially the sort of kickoff meetings at the start of the design project, even the kickoff meetings at the start of construction, have those in person. Have everybody together around a table talking through, okay, how are we going to make sure this passive house project is successful? And, have sort of folks airing their concerns and their reservations and talk about it up front in those meetings. I would love to see those meetings get paired perhaps with like a happy hour afterward where everybody can kind of sit around and hang out and get to know each other as people, right? And hopefully those conversations and those in-person interactions help reduce the friction which inevitably comes with these projects. We can't get away from it. There's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be, different ideas and perspectives brought to the table. But hopefully we can have those conversations in a more professional manner and get through them more quickly. I think a question that has come to mind through the various conversations and presentations at the conference, and it's really threaded into quite a number of presentations actually, is this idea of cost and risk, and really thinking about, because it's a perspective I don't see as much as a consultant, usually to an architect or to a developer. But owners and developers are constantly thinking about risk and insurance and underwriting and all these financial metrics that I'm not often a part of. But understanding that more, and I want to continue to ask those questions and have those conversations, because I know I have a role to help support them in that. And the more I can understand, the more I can sort of bring to those conversations and ultimately get them, to their goals.
All right. Well, they were highlights from the Passive House Network conference at Hotel Marcel. Fantastic venue, and really great that both of you were able to be there. And thank you, Ilka, for capturing those voices and thoughts from that. And it's really great to hear lots of perspectives there that go back into some of the history of not just Passive House but that area, but also looking beyond and reaching out to the wider industry and how we bring more people. There was lots of talk about education there and getting tradespeople involved, and I think there's some really great messages and thoughts in there. So thank you very much for that. Zach, what have we got coming up over at the Accelerator and at Reimagine?
Yeah, so lots going on. And it was fun to hear Karen Ramsey share her perspectives there. And it was the first time that I got to meet Karen, who's a member of the Reimagine Buildings Collective. So I've seen her a lot in 2 dimensions, but be able to see her in 3 dimensions. There was quite a large contingent of folks from the Reimagine Buildings Collective that got to connect with. We all got to connect, which was super fun. So in the Reimagine Buildings Collective, we have a Reimagine Tuesdays every Tuesday. Ask Me Anything Friday is happening. Lots of programming going on, and that will go on throughout the summer. So at Passive House Accelerator Live, in a couple weeks, we will take a break from Passive House Accelerator Live programs on Wednesdays for the months of July and August. But in the Reimagine Buildings Collective, we'll be doing a little bit of a summer camp throughout the summer, and we'll have lots of stuff going on. On the Passive House Accelerator Live this week on Wednesday, June 17th, we're joined by Cascadia Windows and Doors for a special Passive House component spotlight called Beyond Compliance: How High Performance Fenestration Supports Passive House and Large Building Decarbonization. So we hope people will join us for that. And we're nearing the end of the month of June. So that means we'll wrap up Passive House Accelerator Lives for the season and be back in September for a brand new one.
Awesome. All right, we'll jump into that. Find out all that, as always, over at Passive House Accelerator and also at Reimagine Buildings. Thank you both. Thanks, Zach. Thanks, Ilka. And we'll be back again next week on the Passive House Podcast.